experiences are really limited to a smaller group of entities. What you see happening, though, is a lot of other entities, whether it be teams, whether it be entrepreneurial companies, trying to create those complementary experiences that use social, that use interactive games, that use some level of data regarding the game, and still try to engage customers. Ultimately, again, if you can bring together the best of the content, the best of the social, and the best of the games into one experience, that's ultimately where fans are going to go. But what I see happening now is a lot of pieces of this being put together and some interesting experimentation going on. I think the applications today, though, will be much different from those that are 4 or 5 years down the road, which I think will be a lot more all-inclusive and a lot more robust.
Well, I mean, you talked about the rights issues, and obviously, being an attorney, I've seen them, and we saw in New York, especially with the Jeremy Lin pushing forward the negotiations out here, which was our own little piece of the second screen experience in itself. So, I guess, other than the rights issues, and other than some of the stuff that you guys have talked about already, what other obstacles are you guys kind of facing? Maybe just not only from your own organization's point of view, but what else you kind of see out there in the sports industry and with respect to the second screen experience and creating it.
Well, one of the big challenges, especially for us in my former role as a head of an independent sort of entrepreneurial company, is how do you make the investment pay out? Because to create some of these wonderful, robust second screen applications, you really are talking about a pretty significant investment in production costs or other kinds of resources being devoted. And as I think some of the folks talked about earlier today, the monetization curve on mobile is not quite there yet. So there isn't necessarily the ad sales dollars always to support the kinds of great, amazing kinds of products that you would want to create in the second screen. So one of the big challenges, particularly for independent entrepreneurial companies or smaller publishers, is how do you justify that expense in mobile? You know your fans are there, so you got to be there from a brand and engagement perspective, but the money may not be there yet, and trying to make that economic picture work is pretty challenging.
Chris is right on. At the Giants, we launched our mobile application last September, and it's been a tremendous success, but we have the benefit of creating that application minus a P&L. Verizon is an enormous team partner of ours. They developed it. They received promotional placement within the app. But it's not as though we have that at the top of our list of the assets that we're incorporating into packages. You can put the small banner ads in there. Are they effective? No. In fact, I would say they're probably about as effective as the ESPN Gatorade ad was in 1997, right? But again, people don't know how to activate their brands within that mobile space. I can give you another challenge that certainly we faced at the team. My guess is, Pete, you faced it at the Celtics too. It's with respect to breaking news. We, the Giants, do not want to be breaking news about our players. So if Justin Tuck is questionable for Sunday's game, ESPN can speculate about his status all day Saturday, all Sunday morning. We, the Giants, won't make a formal announcement until we're forced by the NFL to do so at about 12:30 the day of the game. So you, the fan, if you're looking for an update on the status of Justin Tuck relative to that day's game, unfortunately for me, you're going to go everywhere else but Giants.com for that information.
Yeah, and I would say, to that point, we're trying to start shifting that to some degree. Obviously, from when it comes to injury information, trade information, that obviously has to go through the league first, and so, yeah, we're not going to be beating people to that type of information. But the advantage we do have is the massive audiences that we've started to accumulate that are incredibly targeted. I mean, we know that we've got 6.5 million fans on Facebook. For the average reporter who covers the Boston Celtics might have 30,000 followers tops on Twitter. We've got 600,000. And so even though, obviously that news can break quickly and circulate fast, when it comes to getting people's attention and getting our fan base's attention in large, we can drown them out with our own Twitter handle in a lot of cases, and that actual, even if they necessarily beat us to the story, the amplification we get is far beyond the reach most of these guys are ever going to get. And so in terms of controlling that online conversation and choreographing the online conversation about with the Boston Celtics, we have a massive advantage in that really regard. And I think that's the one thing that has really kind of changed the playing field a little bit for the teams, because now we've all really become our own media outlets in ways that just weren't possible, 4 or 5 years ago. And the reality is, you don't have to have the Celtics on your brain. We can just get on your brain because you're checking Facebook and you want to know what your 150 friends are up to. But guess what? There we are. Same with Twitter, and I think that's really changed, our operations in terms of ticket sales, in terms of merchandising, in terms of activating our corporate partners. It's giving us a huge advantage that we just simply didn't have, and to some degree, disenfranchising a lot of the guys who spend a lot of time and energy covering.
They want access. They want access to their favorite teams, their favorite players, and the beauty of the second screen experience is they can get it. You can be seated on your sofa. I'm a huge fan of the Pittsburgh Penguins. And I'm sitting on my sofa watching the playoff games this year, and I can go to Facebook and interact with people I went to high school with and talk about the game. And as a sports fan, that's incredibly cool.
Yeah, I think for us, one of the things we did this year at Media Day is we had the town hall concept of the live streaming video, had fans tweeting in questions to the player and giving them the access to actually do Media Day interviews with our players. Facilitated, but still, to have that opportunity to actually ask questions of your favorite players is just something that we didn't really have a great technology space for. You had the old online chat where it's just typing and people are, oh, well, he's not really answering the question. Well, this, you can see him right there. He's taking the question and we're like, hey, Celtics fan 46 wants to know, why do you wear 34, Paul Pierce? That's really changed the game, and I think that's more where this is going to continue to go. You're going to see that not just in the streaming video space, but in the broadcast space as well. And I think that's really where, again, that access point is really just blowing up.
And I guess I just think over time you're going to see a lot more integration between the live video element, the gaming, the information, the interactivity, the social. And so the concept of two screens may actually ultimately be one screen where you're sitting with your tablet and you're seeing it all there. Again, that's not going to be exclusively the way it's experienced, but I think you're going to see a lot more integration of these pieces over time in a coherent experience that works for fans.
Right, I'll just add one more thing speaking to that live experience. So I just told you how fantastic that experience was, and since you're a lawyer, we'll dig into this a little bit. So we get back from our training facility and team president, CMO, or wow, that was amazing, what a great experience. And the first call I get from the NBA is, yeah, you guys put that on Ustream. You can't do that. Our lawyers are upset. And I'm like, this is an amazing fan experience. We had 20,000 people watch this streaming broadcast. We had people interacting with the players, and your first response is, you can't do that? And I'm like, yeah, well, it's competitive with Comcast Sportsnet. It's competitive with NBA TV. It's competitive with ESPN. Now, okay, well, that's kind of the space we're all playing in. And so, again, getting back to that whole rights holders issue, this stuff isn't going away, and it's going to be a continuous struggle for teams to kind of figure out where can they actually play in this space, who owns the rights to do this. We just did a massive TV rights deal, and part of that deal is digital video, and hypothetically they don't want us putting anything more than 5 minutes, like a 5-minute piece of video out on our website. They feel like that's competitive with a TV broadcast, even though it's not a game, it's not game-related video. It could just be a sit-down interview with a player. That's the space that we're all kind of in. And so, as much as there's a lot of great opportunity out there, it's also, there's a lot of lawyers in a room trying to figure out what we can and can't do and why we can't do it.
For sure. And I mean, from my standpoint, or maybe a question for you is, is it going to be who owns the rights? It's going to be able to kind of play in this space. It's funny to have ESPN up here right before you get these teams guys up here, because from my perspective, I've worked with the networks and I've been on the side of the networks for a very long time, and it is really, yes, content is king, but from my standpoint, it's rights are king. And from the second screen experiences, who controls those rights really is going to have the leg up when they're leveraging these new platforms.
What are some of the ways that you kind of gauge your own success in terms of how well you're engaging that quantity of fans that you have?
Sure. I think the thing I look at on Facebook more than anything, people talk about likes and comments, and I think most of that stuff is garbage, to be honest with you. I mean, a like is a quick click of the button, and what does it mean? And if you look at the comments, you actually read the comments, and you will get several hundred comments on a post. And most of it's like, hey, first, second, third, and then just a bunch of nonsense spam. So I look at shares as really the one indication of kind of really if your content is hitting the mark and people are willing to share it with their friends and family, that's when I think that's when you've really posted successful content. And so the thing we've seen, obviously, and again, sharing is so much of how you reach that new audience and grow that audience. At this point, it looks like photo galleries and videos are the two things that still get shared a lot.